Less than a month until Avengers Endgame, baby! And with less than 1 month until Avengers Endgame concludes the 22-movie saga that has been such a quintessential part of my life, I thought that I would talk about some of the elements of the MCU. And today I'm talking about the future of the MCU and why I'm particularly concerned about it. Why, you may ask, and it's basically down to two things: not focusing on pre-established characters and timing. Let's talk about first the established characters here. I thought for sure that Black Widow was going to be the first female to have a lead in the MCU. I thought it was definite back in Civil War. I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, we're going to have her with Winter Soldier. It's going to be rated R. It's going to be an erotic spy thriller. It's going to be awesome, but that is nowhere in sight. Sure, we have a Black Widow movie planned eventually, but it's not at the forefront of Marvel right now. As my English teacher once said, you have to have all types of teachers. You have to have the teachers that have been here for 15 or 20 years. You have to have them for their wisdom and their experience. You have to have the teachers that have been here for a moderate amount of time, 6 or 7 years, so we know the groove, but we can also bring in new perspectives. And we have to have the new teachers that come in and give completely new ideas to the ways of teaching and see what they can implement into the system. Something that the MCU did up to the point of Civil War. We had the originals like Captain America, like Black Widow, like Iron Man, like Hawkeye. We had some intermediates like Bucky Barnes, like Sam Wilson. We also had the newcomers like Spider-Man and Black Panther. We had everything in between, and it was the perfect moment for the franchise because everything was set in motion. I thought that the MCU was going to progress off of that, but that does not seem to be the case. Have we heard anything about War Machine taking over Iron Man's mantle? Have we heard anything about Winter Soldier or Falcon taking over Cap's mantle? No, we haven't. In fact, we haven't heard anything about characters that still have a lot of potential, like Hulk and Thor, who both of which got excellent roles in Ragnarok that truly showed their future potential in the MCU, but we haven't heard anything about them. Not only would these movies be awesome and really original additions to the MCU, but this just seemed logical to me. It seemed natural. We have to have some of the veterans there, so some of the older fans can still stay invested in these stories. We have to have them teach the new Avengers how to function. It just seemed natural to me. Like, they were going to get their dues, especially Black Widow. Scarlett Johansson has been with this franchise for so long, and she still doesn't have her movie yet. It's nonsensical, and I don't understand why they're not focusing on these characters. And the same thing goes for some of the moderates like Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. We haven't heard anything about their future plans in the MCU either. Sure, we have Far From Home, but have we heard anything about Spider-Man leading the Avengers? Have we heard anything about Doctor Strange? And we have so many possibilities with Doctor Strange. The Illuminati, Blade, vampires, Morbius. There's so much potential there, but for some reason, he's not at the forefront. He doesn't even have a confirmed sequel for 2020 yet, which I hope we get, but that does not seem to be the case at all. These characters, to me, were the ones that were destined to take over the Avengers. They were going to be the next generation of them. They were the moderates that have been here for a couple of years, and now it was their time to shine. And this was the same thing for Black Panther. But Black Panther, man, then he just had to screw everything up. Black Panther had such a strong foundation in Civil War, and I really thought that he was going to be fluidly implemented into the rest of the MCU. That maybe in his origin movie, he'd face against Kraven the Hunter, or maybe he'd team up with Winter Soldier. It all seemed very natural to me, but Ryan Coogler had to go and create his own whole universe for Black Panther, and it's screwing everything up. Let's ignore the social commentary for right now. Let's just talk about straight up movie franchise facts right now. Black Panther has currently made the Marvel Cinematic Universe talk about implementing new characters, regardless of the race, like Shang-Chi. They're trying to get the Young Avengers, maybe. They're getting all these characters that are new and haven't been seen before on the screen to be their next movies, like Namor, like Moon Knight. They're in the talks to be the movies coming out 2020, 2021, 2022. And it's bothersome to me because this could potentially be fatal to the MCU. We have to have these group movies. We have to have an interconnected path for all the characters because that's what made the franchise so special in the first place. If we try and segregate all the characters into their own worlds and just continually tell different stories with just them and not have them cross paths, then that defeats the whole purpose of the franchise. And I think that having a whole slew of new movies would be awesome for little kids who haven't seen these movies before, but would be really detrimental to the experience of people like myself who've been here for so long. The fans of Black Panther and Captain Marvel, which, let's be real here, aren't the biggest fans of the MCU in general, want to see them have contained stories. They don't want them in the larger span of the MCU, and that's what Marvel seems to be focusing on in the near future. And this is not exciting me at all. It's part of the reason why I'm considering dropping out after Endgame or Far From Home, because I don't want to see this whole franchise rebooted after this. I want to see a clean slate for sure. I want to see new stuff, but that doesn't mean I want to erase what's already been there. If the MCU really wants my money that bad, they have to start acting fast. We need schedules for 2020, 2021, and 2022 to see if we're getting, yes, an origin story, but also movies with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and Black Panther that are all crossing paths with each other. We have to see if we're getting The Mighty Thor, or Planet Hulk, or Black Widow and Winter Soldier. We have to see if we're getting that stuff, because if we're just getting new stuff, if we're getting new heroes, great for little kids, but that's only going to increase my own superhero fatigue. Because what's keeping the MCU alive is the crossing paths. It's the fact that these characters are having these unique stories with each other, and they're not just in their own contained worlds, like what we're seeing with DC, basically. We have to have the puzzle pieces fit together, and that's not what Marvel is focusing on. And we gotta understand that this first point ties into my second point, timing. We can't have all these new movies line up, because by the time we get to some of the older characters in 2023, we're not going to be interested anymore. And this is the thing. Spider-Man Far From Home is going to be the last Marvel movie we see in over a year. We're going to have to wait over a year for the next one. And that's great. We get a break after getting constantly bombarded by these movies. But at the same time, we're also waiting a long time, and we don't understand if we're going to be still interested by then. Sure, we may go and see it, but we may not have that same vigor we've had for all these Marvel movies. We have to keep the momentum, and that's not what they've been doing either. You know, we should really have a Doctor Strange movie in 2020. That would be a nice time to carry on his character, and I thought that that would have been the greatest time for Guardians 3. We could have had Adam Warlock, and that could have been the end of their cosmic adventure, so we get into some new ones, or have some ones when they're in it, but not necessarily the leads, and that's what I'm talking about with crossing over and not just having new characters. But it feels like they've already peaked by now. It feels like we're not going to be as interested come 2021 or hell, even 2022. And with the whole James Gunn controversy and that re-emerging once the movie comes out, I just don't know if these characters, they're going to bring the same excitement that they've brought for so many years. This is the biggest thing with Fantastic Four and X-Men. We can't be waiting 4 or 5 years until they get in here. We have to get them in as soon as possible because we don't want to have that superhero fatigue set in. And yes, I get it. It's been going on for 11 years now and we're all still here, but I've been feeling the fatigue myself. I said it in my Glass review. And so I know that if I perhaps wait until 2022, I'm not going to be nearly as excited as I would have been if they were introduced, say, 2020. They need to get in the MCU as soon as possible so we can start building storylines. We can't have Avengers v X-Men in 2029, guys. It's just the simple facts of life here. We cannot wait this long because we're going to get tired of these movies. We have to keep up the momentum here with constant new stuff, new ideas, but not necessarily new characters getting constantly flooded in. And yes, this is an extremely delicate balance here. Hell, some of the stuff I'm saying, I want to have new characters I can implement it as soon as possible, but I also need to focus on the old ones. But the thing is, Marvel was doing that beforehand. We had a group movie, Age of Ultron, then we went to a small story, Ant-Man, then we went to a group movie, then we went to a solo movie, then we went to a cosmic movie, then we went to a small movie again, and then back to a cosmic. And then Black Panther came in, and that was a little rusty. That wasn't the best thing that ever happened. But then we had a big group movie again, then we had a sequel, and now we're going to get another big group movie after we ignore Captain Marvel. That was what Marvel was doing. But as of now, their future plans seem a bit murky. They're ignoring the veterans, they're not properly building up the characters that have been here for a solid amount of time and deserve to be leading the Avengers. They're only focusing on these new characters and their own separate universes. We're not focusing on the path crossing and the future, which is what the MCU was always known for. And we're certainly not trying to implement characters like the Fantastic Four and the X-Men as soon as possible, even though they need to be so we don't get fatigued by the time we see them. The MCU could get even better now. We can have the Sinister Six and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men all at once. But if we don't get them in time, if we get them by 2026, it won't be worth it anymore. People are going to start forgetting about the MCU and superhero movies will die out. Marvel must keep up the momentum here. We can't ignore the old ones, but we also have to have new stuff as well. It's an extremely hard, slippery slope, but it's an important one nonetheless, and one that Marvel must focus on. Personally, I don't know what my future is in the MCU. I don't know if we're going to keep on seeing the movies, because if we're just getting new stories with Black Panther and Captain Marvel, I'm just not going to care. I want to see some of those old veterans, and I also want to see their stories improved as well. But as of right now, it seems as though this may be an end for the MCU, at least for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you all next time.